Hello, team. All right, so these are our notes for lesson 3. And I want to remind you that you're going to be doing questions 5 through 7 in your reading guide. So remember to look really carefully at which module and which section that says you're doing, because we are not going to do every single one. It's going to skip sometimes. All right. All right. So today we're going to take just some brief notes on the major approaches, and we started to talk about them a little bit yesterday. And then we're going to be looking at an event that happened with this woman named Kathy, and we're going to be applying the major approaches to that. All right. So you guys are going to kind of jigsaw. You're going to be looking at a different approach. All right. So I forgot to change our date again today. I'm so sorry. I will make sure that's on point for tomorrow. We're still in our scientific foundations unit, and we are talking about the major approaches today. All right, so the first one we want to talk about is behavioral, and we discussed this a little bit yesterday. So a behavioral approach is all about how do we learn the behaviors that we have, right? So behaviors are something that we can observe. I can observe if somebody cries when they get mad. I can observe if someone responds in a certain way when they're asked a particular type of question. I can observe if someone has an emotional reaction to something, right? So a behavioral psychologist is looking at how do we learn to respond that way, all right? We're going to get into all of these more in depth in the coming weeks. So next is our biological response. So this is looking at two main things. The first thing we're looking at is how do your body and your brain help you to experience emotions, memories, and your senses. So this is everything from how do we create memories to what happens in your brain when you're feeling sad to how do your eyes work. These are all the types of things a biological psychologist will look at. They're also going to look at how our genes interact with environment cues in order to differentiate us among each other, right? So for instance, if a psychologist was studying me, they can see that I have a genetic predisposition to anxiety, right? And then they can look at the experiences that I've had or my environment and see if that helped the gene express more strongly or if it kind of dampened it a little bit. Okay, so those are the two main things a biological psychologist is going to look at. So next, a cognitive psychologist is somebody who studies all of your mental processes. So problem solving, making memories, remembering stuff, logic, spatial awareness, basically anything to do with information and how we process it and then how we get it back. Okay. Our next one is a humanistic approach. So this approach really focuses on the individual, and it's all about how do we meet the individual's needs for love, acceptance, belonging, feeling like they have a purpose, feeling fulfilled, right? It's not about any of the mechanical, physical stuff. It's not about your past or your childhood or any of that. It's all about how do we figure out how to meet these needs for you. Okay, so really take into account the whole person. All right, so that's kind of it for the notes because we're going to get into each of those in more depth throughout the year. So what we're going to do is now we're going to look at an article and I'm going to read it to us. And then for those of us that are in class, we're going to do this as a jigsaw. For those of us that are remote, you can actually pick whatever approach you want to do and just do that one, okay? And that'll kind of make more sense to you when we look at the worksheet. So let me open up our worksheets here. Give me a second. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so we're going to read this article together, and you'll be able to see as you scroll down, you can pick one of these approaches that you want to do. Actually, two. Okay, two approaches. So maybe you want to do a cognition approach, and maybe you want to do a biological approach. Whatever is interesting to you. Okay, and yes, I will make this bigger so it's easier to read. Okay, so we're going to read about a woman named Kathy. Okay, so the headline is "The Runner Quits Race and Leaps from a Bridge." And this occurred in the New York Times, June 6, 1986. Kathy Ormsby of North Carolina State, who broke the collegiate record for the women's 10,000-meter run 7 weeks ago, was hospitalized with a serious spinal injury today after she bolted from another 10,000-meter race on Wednesday night and apparently attempted suicide by jumping off a bridge. Miss Ormsby is a 5'5", 108-pound, 21-year-old junior, pre-medical, and a Dean's List student from Rockingham, North Carolina. Wednesday night, she ran at the Indiana University track in the 10,000 meters, the first final of the National Collegiate Athletic Association's Outdoor Track and Field Championships. For the first 6,500 meters, she and 3 others ran in the leading pack well ahead of 20 others. Then, according to a statement by meet officials, she ran off the track, climbed a low fence, and ran across a softball field. She then ran to a nearby bridge on New York Street over the White River and jumped off the bridge, according to a police report, landing in the weeds 20 feet from the water. The bridge is about 30 to 40 feet high. The incident occurred at 10 p.m., and no information was released for at least 12 hours. It was called attempted suicide. The report called it an attempted suicide. According to Captain Larry D. Probst of the University Police, a doctor who treated her said she told him, "I jumped." Captain Probst would not identify the physician. "She did jump off the bridge," said Lieutenant Doug Cox of the Indianapolis Division of the Indiana University Police Department. The speculation is that she's a perfectionist and she didn't think she had done very well. She felt despondent because of the way she was running. There was no physical evidence to indicate that anything else happened. None of the North Carolina State coaches apparently saw Miss Ormsby run off the track. After 10 minutes, Coach Raleigh Geiger became concerned and started looking for her. He thought she was crying, said an official of the Indiana University track stadium who asked that his name not be used. He was worried. He then decided to go to the river, and there she was. She jumped onto a floodplain. He called for help. An ambulance took Miss Ormsby to the Wishart Memorial Hospital 10 blocks from the track. Today, Karen Wilzaleski, the hospital's assistant public relations director, said Miss Ormsby was in serious condition in the surgery intensive care unit. She had damage to her spinal cord. "They are checking for a possible fracture of the spine," said Miss Wilzaleski. "She has suffered a spinal injury with spinal cord damage and chest injuries. We are unsure at the present time if the damage is permanent. Kathy is awake and alert." Ms. Wilzaleski said she cannot comment on any signs of paralysis until we know more. Geiger spent most of the day at the hospital and was not available for comment. Dale and Sally Ormsby, Miss Ormsby's parents, were here to see her run. Carol Robertson, the hospital's community relations coordinator, said that the parents had no idea what had happened or why it had happened. A source close to the team, who did not want to be identified, said Miss Ormsby had seemed overwhelmed by her recent success. On April 24th in the Penn Relays in Philadelphia, she unexpectedly won the women's 10,000 meters in 32 minutes, 36.2 seconds, the fastest ever run by a collegian. "She's a shy girl, an introvert," he said. "She seemed to put pressure on herself that she had to run fast in every race. She apparently felt she had to win the NCAA race. She was hanging in with the leaders, but I guess she felt she couldn't win and she couldn't handle it." Stephanie Herbst, a Wisconsin sophomore, won the race in 32 minutes, 32 seconds, and 75 hundredths of a second, breaking Miss Ormsby's collegiate record. Miss Ormsby had also been scheduled to run the 5,000 meter trials tonight. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to choose two of these approaches and you're going to analyze what was happening to her. And you're going to use evidence from the article to help you do that, right? So, for example, if you're looking at the behavioral approach here, this stresses the effects of learning and the environment. So you're going to need to look for evidence in your article that helps to explain her behavior from that perspective. Okay. So again, if you have questions, you can hit me up on office hours. You can send me an email, whatever it is that you need to do, and we will talk about it later. Bye.